Hey everybody, DevDay Guide here. Welcome to our first regular live in a long time. I did some lives at TED.ai 3 weeks ago, but for a regular live, this is the first in a long time. And the reason I decided to do it is huge news regarding 2 different topics. So it was worth doing one of these lives. Also, I wanted to get everyone's opinion about doing a live every week instead of doing the videos the way I've been doing them with 2 longs and 2 shorts each week. Please leave your comments below on that. That's really important. There's so much stuff happening now that it almost makes sense to do a weekly live like this. So before we get to those 2 critical topics, first, a quick update on AI news for this week. And there was one big event. So the huge event was OpenAI's first ever developer conference day. And let's hear a little bit about that. The company unveiled a series of AI tool updates, including the ability for developers to create custom versions of ChatGPT called GPTs. CEO Sam Altman in a few minutes demonstrated how easy it is for anyone to create a GPT without any prior coding experience. So this is a huge breakthrough. The company is also rolling out a GPT store starting later this month, November of 2023, to allow GPTs to become searchable. So basically, they're creating an app store. And this really is taking OpenAI down a whole new path, right? External developers creating apps that anyone can use. So, new business model for them. By the way, it's been exactly 1 year now since ChatGPT came out. But that wasn't it for that day. They said that getting developers involved will address commercial challenges that they have, which is, it's a high-cost operation they run because of training models and testing them and all that stuff. And they have limited revenue. So far, only have charged for GPT-4. Well, on that subject, Altman also showed off GPT-4 Turbo, which is an enhanced version. It's not GPT-5, but it's an enhanced version of GPT-4. He said 2 million developers are now using their platform, and about 90% of Fortune 500 companies are using ChatGPT/GPT-4. They have 100 million active users. So what does this say? This says everyone is jumping in to AI from the corporate world very quickly now. Big companies with big budgets. Next up, news this week, a company called Humane, which is a startup founded by former Apple employees. They introduced their first AI wearable device called an AI pen, and it pins to your shirt, like right there. It intends to eventually replace smartphones by projecting information onto the user's hand, offering the ability to answer phone calls and perform various tasks without holding a smartphone. The company also said it features a handful of AI-powered tools, including the ability to search, send messages, and manage email clutter. So Gartner is the premier research group evaluating software and hardware, and so they did a review of this AI pen. They said the unveiling marked an important step in futuristic hardware design for generative and an exploration of a potentially new way for humans and machines to interact. So this one guy said the biggest challenge with one of these pens is battery life, but Humane is saying it'll last all day. So one thing is for sure, and that is that the way that we interact with our computers is definitely going to change. The question is, what will be the change that's ultimately adopted that everyone starts using? This Humane AI pen, this is a very early effort at this transition, but this transition will continue and accelerate dramatically in the near future. Okay, let's see. Next up, XAI, which is Elon Musk. X released Grok. So Grok is designed to answer questions with a bit of wit and a rebellious streak. It will be released for some users of X. Musk said Grok is still in the early stages of testing, but will soon become part of X's Premium Plus service in the US, which is $16 a month. And then the last two pieces of news. Right after the OpenAI developer conference, OpenAI was hit by a denial of service attack, and their services went down Wednesday of this past week for much of the day. So somebody's picking on them now. And then finally, more AI news. Major tech companies continued to double down on AI also. Reuters reported Amazon is investing millions of dollars on training an AI code named Olympus. This is expected to have double the number of parameters as GPT-4. So this is going to be a massive foundation model. In addition, YouTube is testing AI tools that answers questions about content, makes recommendations, and summarizes topics in the comment sections of videos. So that is coming to YouTube. So that's the week's AI news for right now. And now we're going to get into it. So there's been a lot of articles on two subjects. And because of the volume of articles from different sources, I have come to the conclusion that these two areas have reached an inflection point, meaning we're going to start seeing these two things everywhere in the very, very near future now. So, what is the first one? The first one is autonomy. And this isn't just cars. In fact, we're going to start out with autonomous trucks. Big dogs in automated trucking make big moves toward commercialization. Introduction dates of commercial driverless trucks, meaning they are not set up to have a driver in them at all, are increasingly coming into focus. Daimler Trucks has, for the first time, set a date for commercialization of their full self-driving trucks. Meanwhile, Aurora has provided a fresh data dump of their plans to put driverless trucks on the road next year, 2024, as well as updated metrics. So we're also going to talk about Kodiak Robotics, which is a third self-driving truck company well along the path to commercialization. So they talk more about Daimler Trucks. It was spun off from Mercedes-Benz about a year ago, so late 2022. The CEO announced that their autonomous trucking product could come as soon as 2027. So previously, Daimler and their partner is Torque Robotics, which they own 51% of. That's the group making the driverless system. They had not given a date before. Now they're saying 2027. So the CEO of Daimler Trucks laid out a 4-phase deployment approach. Phase 1 will encompass California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas on I-10 and I-40. The I-40 route will continue into Arkansas and on to Memphis. Oklahoma City to St. Louis on I-44 is also included. So this is phase one, and this is projected for 2027. Then in phase 2 and 3, they're going to add more Texas routes, as well as continuing eastward from Memphis on I-40, connecting to I-95. And I-10 will be coast to coast. And in Florida, they will tie in to I-75 to reach Atlanta. I-95 and the major interstate highways nationally come online in phase 4. So basically, each of these phases, as they've laid it out for now, is each year. So phase 1, 2027, phase 2, 2028, 3, 2029, and 4, 2030. So what does this mean? By 2030, full self-driving trucks will be on all of America's freeways, is what it means. So clearly, autonomous trucking has reached an inflection point, as you'll see in the further comments. And there's a few different articles we're going to summarize a few comments out of to give you the full frame on my prediction. So basically, they're going to sell customers their homegrown driving system via Torque Robotics, while at the same time supplying trucks that customers can equip with other autonomous driving systems. So basically, their trucks are going to be a sensor-laden platform that any autonomous software that's approved can be laid into. That way, they're agnostic to the software. The CEO of Daimler Truck said in 2030, the company expects to generate $3.3 billion a year revenue and over $1 billion a year in earnings from automated truck operations, which will charge by the mile. So that's how close this thing is. They're now predicting revenue targets and earnings targets as well as dates. So there's this trucking expert that they talked to as part of this article. Breaking down the 3 billion euros into trucking math, it would mean more than 6,000 trucks, each driving 1,000 miles a day. So 6,000 trucks is not a huge number, but they will be visible everywhere. You'll see why they're not a huge number in just a minute. So one of the leaders in automated trucking is Torque Robotics, 1% owned by Daimler. Their operations center is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The vehicle operated as well or better than an alert professional truck driver, handling lane changes, merging traffic, and freeway-to-freeway interchanges. So what does that mean? That means these AIs have mastered freeway driving already, mastered them better than human drivers. We're going to talk more about that after we finish up trucking here. Their lane bias technique was particularly effective, moving the truck side to side a few feet to create more space between the host truck and another vehicle passing or merging. The reason why is there can be squirrely wind and air pressure between these two large trucks that are passing each other. You felt it driving down the freeway in your car. Controlling the vehicle in those circumstances is a bit challenging, so creating separation mitigates that risk. Torque also demonstrated their capability to run on surface streets near the freeway. So now they've mastered the freeway, they're moving on to surface streets which is the final part of fully automated trucking. Now we talk about Aurora. Aurora said they're now logging over 17,000 commercial driverless miles a week. So far this year, they have delivered almost 2,300 loads for customers, driving more than 630,000 commercial miles with nearly 100% on-time performance. So right now, they still have safety drivers in the truck, but that is going away next year. Aurora's burn rate has been going in the right direction. They're a startup. They're not profitable, but their burn rate is going down. So in July, Aurora raised $853 million by going public. They now have $1.6 billion of cash that they believe will get them through commercial launch and into the second half of 2025, meaning commercial launch in 2024. Revenues by mid-2025 may be substantial, but still fall far short of profitability. It's estimated they will need another 1.6 to 1.7 billion, and they expect to become free cash flow positive, which is the huge mile marker for a startup, by the end of 2027. So they raised half of what they need, and they'll raise the other half later. Aurora will need more than 1,500 trucks with the Aurora driver running 1,000 miles a day. So you can see that to be profitable, they can do that at a much lower level than Daimler Trucks. However, Daimler Trucks sells 70,000 regular, not automated trucks every year, 70,000 a year through Freightliner. The Aurora driver will be ready to launch when we have a closed safety case for their existing Dallas to Houston line. Our safety case is a comprehensive evidence-based approach to confirming our self-driving vehicles are acceptably safe to operate on public roads. So they expect to complete that case by the end of this year, 2023. And then they have a separate tracker that they used called the ARM. They've reached 65% as of June. They haven't released the September data yet. But that increased 21 points in one quarter. So it has reached exponential improvement. So Aurora also is building out a support network for these automated trucks. 1 out of every 33 loads needs some type of assistance, which is not too bad, but it's not where they want to be. The best-in-class fleets are at 1 breakdown per 1,000 truck days on the road. So that's a very, very good marker of reliability. Then this article talks briefly about Waymo. Waymo is downshifting their long-running truck AI program called Waymo Via. Has very strong interest, but in July they put the whole thing on ice, repurposing the trucking staff to robotaxi operations. Why? Because Waymo is expanding to new cities right now, LA and Austin, and we're going to talk more about Waymo very soon in this video. So from my viewpoint, Waymo Via has the potential to provide a faster ROI on trucking than these robo-taxis do. But Waymo was founded on the premise of revolutionizing personal mobility, so they're going to stick with the robo-taxis first. However, they still have a strong offering in driverless trucking. So where are we now? This article says we're now down to 5 major players developing commercial autonomous trucks operating long haul on highways: Aurora, Kodiak, Plus, Torque, which is Daimler, and Waabi. We are now in a world where 4 major truck OEMs are deep into platform development for autonomous trucks: Daimler, Iveco, PACCAR, and Volvo. So 4 companies are building fully autonomous truck platforms that the 5 softwares will be bolted onto. So what does that mean when it's down to 5 and 4? It means that this is not a startup technology anymore. It's reached maturity. This is very typical that early in a new technologies phase, there'll be 20, 30, 40 startups trying to do it. But over time, that whittles down to the 4 or 5 that have the resources to actually make it happen. Remember, 90% of startups fail. So let's go on to wrap up autonomous trucking. We'll try to do that quickly. So, we're going to do an article now that isn't strictly about a driverless truck, but it is their platform for becoming driverless. Mercedes-Benz e-Actros 600 electric truck debuts after successful test in the Swiss Alps. Mercedes-Benz has unveiled the production version of the first battery electric long-haul truck for the European market, meaning they have now beat Tesla to market. The new truck's premiere follows a road test across the Alps last week of a prototype loaded with 40 tons of cargo. They went a total distance of 620 miles with only 1 charge. So that means this thing is ready for commercial deployment in terms of battery life. The e-Actros 600's ability to travel more than 1,000 kilometers a day is made possible by intermediate charging during prescribed driver breaks. So in the EU, they require drivers to take specific breaks like every 4 hours and stuff like that. There are rules in the US, but not as strict as the EU. Mercedes also noted that about 60% of long-distance journeys of Mercedes-Benz truck customers in Europe are shorter than 500 kilometers. So that means they can do 60% of the runs that their trucks are already running can be done without recharging. That's big. The company said they mean to perfect these trucks to drive 1.2 million kilometers in 10 years before significant service is needed. And then a separate article about this truck because it had a lot more specific information. With the e-Actros 600, Mercedes Trucks is advancing its vision of accident-free driving with safety assistance systems that go well beyond legal requirements. The safety systems have been upgraded with a new electronics platform with sensor fusion that merges radar and camera data for a better view of the front and sides. The platform offers 20 times greater data processing of 6 primary sensor inputs. So that's why I said I was going to talk about this truck. This truck becomes the automated trucking platform for Daimler trucks. The improved hazard recognition and multiple lane monitoring mean that the emergency brake assistance system can react more quickly in emergency situations. And the system also allows SAE level 2 semi-automated driving, which means that the truck can drive itself, but the driver has to be there and paying attention all the time. That is the rule with level 2 driving. Level 3 is you don't have to pay attention all the time, and that's coming. Level 3 cars are on the road. We'll get to cars in just a second. Daimler Truck subsidiary Torque Robotics is pioneering SAE Level 4 autonomous truck technology for long-haul applications. The self-driving unit recently announced signing an agreement with a second carrier. The first was Schneider in September of 2022, and now CR England for temperature-controlled loads. So Torque now has 2 other trucking companies that they are working with right now to perfect level 4 autonomy, meaning the driver will be present, the controls will be there, but they don't have to pay attention at all. Okay, just to prove my point about this has reached an inflection point. Aurora opens first commercial-ready route for planned driverless truck launch in late 2024. So this article specifically gives the date. This is a significant milestone in the opening of the industry's first lane for driverless trucks supported by commercial-ready terminals in Dallas and Houston. So what does that mean? Alongside the maturing and scaling of our operations between Dallas and Houston, our teams are focused on preparing for an on-schedule commercial launch late in 2024. Nearly half of all truck freight in Texas moves along I-445 between Dallas and Houston. So Aurora has now built 2 terminals that are expressly for these driverless trucks. So they're set up differently than regular truck terminals to allow them to easily pull in and get unloaded and all that stuff. Opening a driverless trucking lane flanked by commercially ready terminals is an industry first, and the terminals will actually be ready well ahead of the driverless trucks hitting the road in late 2024. The company uses terminals to house, maintain, prepare, inspect, and deploy autonomous trucks between destinations, designed to maximize the time on the road hauling freight. So Aurora picked these terminal locations to accommodate their major customers, including FedEx. It makes it easy to integrate their autonomous trucks into their customers' existing operations. They are now setting up a command center to support around-the-clock management of these autonomous trucks. By the end of the year, they expect to achieve 100 loads per week on the I-45 route. But we continue to have our commercial driver's license operators on board. This will ultimately be the first lane we operate without a driver in the truck near the end of 2024. So this is real, folks. It's matured, it's real. This is an inflection point, and this is why I wanted to do a live today. We'll do a whole separate topic besides self-driving at the end, but it'll be shorter than this one. Today, we also operate on the route between Fort Worth and El Paso, and we're pulling loads there daily for customers. So Texas is first for Aurora, and it's going to spread quickly. Further proof right here that we're at the inflection point on autonomous trucking. Maersk, the biggest ocean freight line, and Kodiak partner on a first in autonomous trucking. Global shipping giant Maersk and self-driving vehicle startup Kodiak Robotics are partnering to launch the first commercial autonomous trucking lane between Houston and Oklahoma City. So it's the same road, just going further past Dallas to Oklahoma City. So that's 2 companies that will be operating fully autonomous trucks on that freeway next year. Autonomous trucks will play an instrumental role in digitizing the supply chain. We expect self-driving trucks to ultimately become a competitive advantage for Maersk, said their spokesman. Now Kodiak and Maersk will complete 4 round trips per week on a 24-hour day, 4-day-a-week basis between a Houston facility where consumer products are loaded onto trailers to a distribution center in Oklahoma City. So they're starting the run now. It will have a safety driver there, fully autonomous next year, late next year. Kodiak noted that autonomous trucking could help address long-term challenges faced by the trucking industry. According to the American Trucking Association, the industry today faces a shortage of roughly 78,000 drivers. So autonomous trucks at first are not going to replace people. They're going to fill empty positions. The replacement of humans comes later. Now check this out. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, 94% of truck crashes are due to human error. To help ensure safety, Kodiak equips each of its trucks with 18 different sensors. The trucks learn in parallel with system upgrades shared to the entire fleet simultaneously, and these trucks are not subject to distraction. So these trucks are all talking to each other and learning from each other all day, every day, once they roll out. This is stunning. As the first autonomous trucking company to establish this new commercial lane between Houston and Oklahoma City, we are demonstrating our team's ability to introduce new lanes and bring new efficiencies to the entire logistics industry. But it doesn't stop there. All that was long-haul trucking. The big tractor trailer trucks. Now check this out. Tyson and Gatik partner on autonomous delivery trucks. These are the small and mid-sized delivery trucks. Driverless trucks will soon haul chicken wings, breakfast sausage, and hot dogs through a new partnership between autonomous delivery startup Gatik and food industry giant Tyson Foods, the companies announced in September. They will deploy autonomous refrigerated box trucks to bolster Tyson's roots in Northwest Arkansas. In the midst of a nationwide truck driver shortage, autonomous trucks can prove a novel way to ensure continuous supply chain reliability, said Tyson. Operating 18 hours a day, Gatik trucks equipped with commercial-grade autonomous technology will deliver Tyson, Jimmy Dean, and Ballpark products, among others, to the company's distribution and storage facilities in the Rogers and Springdale areas in Arkansas. The new trucks will operate on predetermined short-haul, repeated routes to support fast, efficient product flow from production plants to distribution warehouses. A safety driver will initially be present, but that will disappear late next year. Founded in 2017, Mountain View, California-based Gatik focuses on autonomous short-haul delivery using light and medium-duty trucks. Its partners include Walmart, Tyson Foods, Isuzu, Ryder, and Goodyear. So those are massive companies. They're going to be rolling these things out with all of them. So there will be driverless, small and mid-sized delivery trucks on the road very, very soon next year. Inflection point. And the final, very interesting one on trucks is this one. This is not about autonomy, but it's very interesting. Grounded unveils world's first 250-mile range electric RV. Detroit-based electric RV startup Grounded today announced the launch of the G2, which it says is the world's first 250-mile range, all-electric, solar-equipped RV. So this was this week's news. The G2's 250-mile range makes it the inaugural viable electric motorhome. Our truly modular interior delivers on the promise of a continually upgradable RV interior. Grounded was founded in 2022, just a year ago, by a group of ex-Tesla and SpaceX engineers to create vehicles and technology that give people the freedom and self-reliance to live, work, and explore anywhere sustainably integrated into nature. It can be charged at thousands of nationwide EV chargers. The G2's interior is designed around a grid-based modular system that customers can design and switch the layout themselves. So that's very cool. I've never heard of that before. It has a queen bed, seating for up to 7, a large pull-out table for work or dining, and a well-equipped chef's kitchen. The G2 offers advanced safety features and Starlink high-speed internet. The Grounded Plus app connects the company's proprietary software to all electronic systems, allowing users to view their energy usage patterns and optimization possibilities. The warranty is 8 years or 100,000 miles, which is a really good warranty. Now, get ready for this. Pricing starts at $187,500, and Grounded is now accepting orders. So basically, this is a house on wheels. You live in it. You can work from anywhere, literally. I think it's epic. Very, very interesting, cool thing. So that's it for autonomous trucking. Clear inflection point. Fully autonomous, no driver trucks hitting the road next year, 2024. Huge news. Okay, now we're going to talk briefly about driverless cars, because I went to TED October 17th and 18th, and something big happened literally the day after that. So there were 2 autonomous robo-taxi companies operating in San Francisco while I was there. Waymo, who's been there a long time, and Cruise, Chevrolet Cruise. So Cruise has 600 robo-taxis operating. Now I'm going to read this to you, and I'm going to tell you why it's wrong, and I'll do a short article in a second that proves it's wrong. AV companies hope these driverless vehicles will replace not just Uber, but also human driving as we know it. The underlying technology, however, is still half-baked and error-prone. That is a false statement. I will prove that in just a few minutes. So that's one thing. Any article you read, you have to know enough to understand the stuff they say that's just wrong. Cruise insists its robots are profoundly safer than what they're aiming to replace, cars driven by people. Wait just a few minutes. On October 17th, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announced it was investigating Cruise's fleet because of risks posed to other cars and pedestrians. A week later, an autonomous car in San Francisco hit someone. More on that in a second. Dragging her 20 feet down the road. Now, that's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But you need to understand what actually happened, and we'll talk about it in a second. So the California DMV, because Cruise tried to hide some aspects of what happened in this incident pulled their license, and then crews shut down also in Phoenix and Austin. I'm going to talk about what the real problem is here in a minute, but the circumstances. So a human driver driving in San Francisco hit this poor woman and drove off. A classic hit and run accident. Terrible, terrible for her and her family. But this woman was hit by the other car, thrown into the middle of the road right in front of this Cruise automated vehicle that then hit her again. Terrible. This is one of those rare events that I am going to say no autonomous or human driver could avoid. This is an unavoidable accident, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. So this article is written by The Intercept. They did an investigation of Cruise. They found unreported internal materials such as chat logs show Cruise had known internally about two pressing safety issues. These cars, driverless cars, struggled to detect large holes in the road, which wasn't the situation, and have some trouble recognizing children. I thank you for your comments. I'll respond to comments at the end. Thank you so much. So a University of South Carolina law professor said, I find this deeply irresponsible at the management level. Yes. I want to say a couple of things here. What happened to Cruise was entirely created by its own management for two reasons. One is they were not forthcoming with the California DMV, which was stupid. And the second reason is that they were rushing their product to market. So Waymo had been on the roads driverless for more than 10 years now. Cruise only a couple of years, and they rushed to the market because they were so worried about being behind Waymo that they introduced their robo-taxis a little bit too soon. So this was a company failure, not an AI failure. These kind of mistakes by companies happen all the time. No vehicle, human operated or autonomous, will have zero risk of collision. No kidding. I'll talk more about that in a second. The internal materials reviewed by The Intercept reveal an underlying tension between potentially life and death engineering problems and the effort to deliver the future as quickly as possible. So that's exactly what I was just saying. So, however, there's a story about a few months ago, so right before this poor woman got hit, a 71-year-old woman turning an obscured intersection, turning right, hit a kid in a stroller, and killed it in San Francisco. It was barely reported in the news. But this incident with the AV, blew up. So all I'm going to say is clearly the goal is zero fatalities. It's not likely to happen. I'll give you some very clear statistics in just a second. But accidents are going to happen. The question is, at what rate do those accidents happen comparatively to human drivers? By the way, speaking of people getting hit by cars as a pedestrian in big cities, you may not know this, but 10,000 pedestrians a year, every single year, are hit in New York City by drivers. 10,000 a year, with numerous fatalities. So everything has to be put in perspective for it to be understood. And then they go on to talk about how, they were having trouble identifying children through their sensor suite. This is Cruise. Yes, and children are unpredictable. They're extremely difficult to manage that with autonomous driving because of the run out in the road after the ball scenario. This article says the materials say Cruise, in an attempt to compensate for machine learning shortcomings, more in a second, was relying on human workers behind the scenes to manually identify children encountered by the AVs where its software couldn't do so automatically. Hold on a minute. Whoever wrote this article doesn't understand how AI still works today at a basic level. I talked about this several times in the TED videos. The cutting edge of AI right now is human-tended reinforcement learning. That means that humans are sitting there labeling stuff, providing feedback. That's how the AIs get better. This person seems to have no knowledge of that. The statement said the problem was fixed. Cruise said the problem is fixed and only encountered during testing, not on public streets, and they've never hit a kid. And they went on to say that the risk of potential collision with a child could occur once every 300 million miles driven. Well, that's a pretty big number. Cruise has known its cars can't detect holes. However, they're not the only one. All of the AVs are having that problem with the road suddenly disappearing, right? The problem is often there's people working in these holes. They estimate that one of their AVs would fall into one of these holes once a year. Well, yes, and they need to work on that. Enhancing our AV's ability to detect potential hazards around construction zones is an area of focus. Self-driving is very hard, very hard. And so it's going to be an ongoing process to improve it. Cruise's undisclosed struggles with perceiving and navigating the outside world illustrate the perils of leaning heavily on machine learning to safely transport humans. Not really. Stay tuned for those statistics. The fact that Cruise is even cataloging and assessing its safety risks is a positive sign, said Phil Koopman, an engineering professor specializing in AI at Carnegie Mellon. The fact that robots have difficulty detecting these kinds of obstacles is nothing new. It's been known for years. That's the right context. They should have had these hazards on their hazard list from day one. Rushed to put out their cars. Shortcuts were taken. This is a human management failure. And then it goes on to talk about how, they might go about reducing chances of these problems occurring. Cruise is citing a RAND Corporation study to make its case. It projected deploying AVs that are on average 10% safer than the average human driver could prevent 600,000 traffic deaths in the U.S. over 35 years. That's a huge number. Our safety approach continues to focus on better than human behavior in collision imminent situations. So that said, note that Waymo, who did not rush and has spent many, many more years testing their vehicles, is not being pulled from San Francisco and is actually expanding to other cities as we speak. So this was a Cruise problem, not an autonomous driving problem. And get ready very shortly for those numbers. Education and access are the biggest hurdles standing in the way of autonomous vehicle adoption, says Motional. Motional is a company that makes AV software. Autonomous vehicles are becoming increasingly commonplace on the streets of major cities in the US, but there are still technology challenges. Motional is just out with its 4th annual Consumer Mobility Report, taking a deep dive into public perception and understanding the technology and where it's at. While more Americans are aware of autonomous vehicles than ever before, companies like Motional must continue smoothing the road to mass commercialization by understanding consumer concerns, educating consumers, and meeting their true mobility needs. These reports consistently show that once consumers experience driverless technology firsthand, understand how AVs actually work, and think about how their lives can be improved by using them, they have fewer concerns and much greater interest. Motional is one of a handful of companies offering public robotaxi services and claims the only one offering passenger service and autonomous food delivery. Over half of Gen Zs said the biggest motivator to call a robotaxi over a human-driven ride-hail vehicle is so they don't have to tip, i.e. it will be cheaper. Overall, the Motional survey unsurprisingly found that Americans are bullish about the long-term benefits of autonomous vehicles. And now we get to those super clear statistics that explain all this when it comes to autonomous cars. The autonomous vehicles of Google's sibling Waymo are significantly safer than ones driven by humans, according to new research from global insurance firm Swiss Re, the company announced this month. Swiss Re is one of the largest insurers in the entire world, and they have access to a truckload, excuse the metaphor, of data on car accidents. And they're talking about Waymo. Waymo has driven more than 20 million miles on public roads across 10 states and 20 billion miles in simulation. Based on Swiss Re's data from over 600,000 accident claims and 125 billion miles driven, these baselines are very robust and highly significant. So here are the numbers on a very, very sound basis of analysis. The scientists found that in comparison to the Swiss Re human driver baseline, Waymo's autonomous driving technology, the Waymo Driver, significantly reduced the frequency of property damage claims by 76%. It reduced accidents involving damage to vehicles by over 3/4. This is massive. This is the fact. Sorry, but it gets even better. In addition, the Waymo system completely eliminated bodily injury claims. That means that nobody in any accident got hurt in a Waymo driverless vehicle. Not hurt at all. This is stunning and really proves the power of autonomy. The Waymo Driver is already improving road safety in cities where we operate by accident avoidance. So that's super clear data proving the point. So what does that mean? That means that AVs are coming rapidly. They're far, far safer, and this is a global phenomenon. Xpeng announces advanced intelligent driving. Chinese vehicle startup Xpeng Motors, that's not how you say it, I apologize, announced last week that the international version of its P7 smart electric sedan has been awarded the highest possible safety rating, 5-star. The P7 comes with a standard XPilot ADAS system comprised of 14 active safety features. Our comprehensive integrated full-stack in-house R&D capabilities and robust mobility ecosystem continue to make XPeng a standout choice for consumers looking for EVs with cutting-edge technology at accessible price points. So XPeng is going after a totally different market than Tesla. Tesla is high-end, wealthy people buying cars, whereas XPeng is focused on the mass market consumer. And by the way, those cars are going on sale next year in the EU. Level 4 autonomous cars out of China. And then finally, on automated driving, we've proven that self-driving trucking has reached a complete inflection point, and the final piece of proof on the auto side, beyond the fact of Waymo expanding, Motional expanding, and all that, is Honda, GM, and Cruise plan Japanese driverless ride-hail service in early 2026. In Tokyo yesterday, General Motors announced, along with Honda, that they have entered into an MOU aiming to establish a JV company in the first half of 2024, pending regulatory approvals that will begin a driverless ride service in Japan in early 2026. For new service, the jointly developed by GM, Cruise, and Honda and purpose-built Cruise Origin vehicle will pick up and drop off consumers at destinations entirely through self-driving. Customers will use a dedicated smartphone app to complete the process from hailing to payment. The Origin is a self-driving vehicle with no driver's seat or steering wheel. The companies plan to launch the service in central Tokyo in early 2026 with dozens of Origins and expand the fleet to 500 and then scale the service to areas outside of central Tokyo. So clearly autonomous driving for passenger vehicles and cars is at an inflection point also. These things are going to be everywhere and will become more and more and more visible during the rest of this decade. And by the end of the decade, they're really going to be everywhere. So this is big. This is why I decided to do a live this week. Lots of proof in both autonomous trucking, including construction vehicles and all kinds of stuff, that autonomy has reached an inflection point. Now, what is the other big area that has hit an inflection point? Well, it is, sorry, I missed one last cool one in automotive autonomy, so this is cool. Auburn University Autonomous Tiger Racing recently completed a full lap with its autonomous Indy race car at the Barber Motorsports Park in Birmingham, Alabama. It was the first time a vehicle participating in the Indy Autonomous Challenge completed a lap on a professional track in the United States without any human intervention. The program uses, provided by Safran, one of the makers of the cars, free use of Skydell, the company's hardware-in-the-loop simulation engine. So this is an AI simulation engine. At Barber, Tiger Racing's chase car reached a top speed of 55 miles per hour. And then I mentioned construction vehicles. Momentum is building for Palo Alto, California-based Teleo in its mission to build autonomous technology for heavy construction and material moving industries by retrofitting traditional heavy equipment with autonomous and remote operated technology to create supervised autonomous machines. Its Teleo supervised autonomy technology lets contractors operate existing heavy equipment without an operator in the cab, letting one person control multiple pieces of equipment from a remote desk. This increases productivity, safety, and operator satisfaction. This new vehicle, a dump truck, was rolled out at the Up Summit. And the machines are operating in two places, Teleo's California Proving Ground and a racetrack work site in Finland. So they're very geographically separated places that one system is running these, meaning it basically works globally. The event marks the first time that remote operators working from the comfort of a control center can operate up to 3 Teleo-equipped machines at once. In conjunction with the event, Teleo announced that Tomahawk Construction will become the first customer to deploy its autonomous capabilities on an active job site, with its articulated dump trucks able to use autonomous functions. The autonomy company also announced deals with 8 new construction customers across 7 states in the U.S. The initial capability being launched by Teleo is autonomous tramming or hauling of materials from one point to another. Said the head of Tomahawk Construction, with Teleo, 2 of our dump trucks that have been idle due to driver shortage will be put back into service to haul dirt across the site autonomously. The 8 new customers announced today will deploy 42 Teleo-enabled machines on 17 job sites across 8 U.S. states and Europe. The company plans to have 20 machines on customer sites by the end of this year. So what does this go to show? This goes to show that autonomy is hitting not just trucks and cars, but everything. It's everything, everywhere to what's coming. So sorry, now to that short second major area that has hit an inflection point, and it's robotics. Robotics is there. Check this out. All of this is basically brand new within the last 30 days or so. This is from NASA. Air taxis may become an important part of the U.S. transportation ecosystem, quickly carrying people relatively short distances and eventually may fly without a human pilot on board. NASA is helping prepare for that future with research to ensure that fully autonomous flight technology is safe. So these air taxis are considered robots. That's why we're talking about them. NASA is investigating how human pilots interact with the new flight technology. This work, involving the agency's research pilots, software developers, and flight engineers, is critical for NASA's advanced air mobility mission, which envisions a future of new air transport options, including air taxis and delivery drones. The research is part of an automation software development collaboration between NASA, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, and Sikorsky, who makes helicopters. The research will also monitor a pilot's use of a specially designed tablet into which he will input an algorithm suggesting flight path options and manually input commands. The data gathered through the study will provide additional insight into pilots' tendencies during flight. NASA researchers will use that data to improve future autonomous systems so they can respond to hazards like human pilots would, paving the way for air taxi operations in the U.S. Autonomous systems will have to avoid obstacles like other aircraft, buildings, birds, and weather. NASA is looking at the bigger picture of how these aircraft will be integrated into the national airspace. So these air taxi robots are coming. Next up, FAA authorizes Zipline International to deliver commercial packages using drones that fly beyond the operator's line of sight for the first time in the United States. The FAA authorized Zipline to deliver commercial packages around Salt Lake City using drones that fly beyond the operator's visual line of sight without observers. Zipline will use its Sparrow drone to release the payload via parachute. Data collected from these operations will inform the FAA's ongoing policy and rulemaking activities. The FAA is focused on developing standard rules to make beyond visual line of sight aviation operations routine, scalable, and economically viable. The FAA's long-term goal is to safely integrate drones into the national airspace system rather than set aside separate airspace exclusively for drones. So drones are here now. They've been through the regulatory process for package delivery and approved. The this is happening now. So the FAA will watch for the next year or so how this goes and then start allowing it to expand out all over the United States. So that's our second data point that robotics has hit an inflection point. The third, check this out, a mind-blowing number. Due to rising labor expenses and the expansion of e-commerce, mobile robots have garnered substantial traction across warehouses, factories, and fulfillment centers. Now, this is from ID TechX, who I've mentioned before. According to ID TechX's research, cumulative funding for various segments of mobile robotics has experienced an astonishing 261 times increase from 2015 to 2022. So in only 7 years, the investment in mobile robotics has increased 261%. As of 2023, certain applications such as infrastructure-dependent automated guided vehicles and infrastructure-free autonomous mobile robots for indoor intralogistics have already established themselves as multi-billion-dollar markets. So that's the data point. Warehouse robots are now a multi-billion industry. That means they've hit maturity and they will now get cheaper and cheaper and spread like wildfire. Meanwhile, investments in outdoor last-mile delivery vans, robots, and drones for short-haul delivery, as well as L4 autonomous trucks, are also substantial, and we talked separately about that. So inflection point reached. AI maturity has occurred in two distinct business segments: robotics and autonomous driving. So this is big, big stuff. So please, as I said at the beginning, I'm considering switching from the 2 longs and 2 shorts format a week to this 1 live a week, because there's so much happening every single week in AI now that it's easy to do an hour live. But I want to know how my viewers and subscribers feel about that. And thank you so much to my subscribers. God bless you all. We should hit 1,000 today. Thank you so much for your support. Really, really appreciate that. That puts us in the top 10% of YouTube channels. So it's a good start. Long way to go to get where I really want to take this, but it's a great start and it's all due to you. So thank you very much. Now questions. One viewer says, Tesla has better autonomous software than GM's Cruise. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And thank you, DRS, for that one. Completely agree with what you just said. And also from DRS, I actually welcome self-driving cars. I've been driving for 30 years, and none of us are perfect drivers. I'm more frightened of DUI drivers than a computer. Yeah, in fact, one thing I've really been surprised about, because the technology exists, is why haven't they deployed a system on passenger vehicles that requires you to do a breathalyzer before the ignition will work on your car. That would overnight eliminate drunk driving. Perhaps they're just waiting for the autonomous vehicles to do it, as you said, DRS. So thank you so much for that comment. So please let me know in the comments to this video your feelings about the change of format. Once again, I really appreciate everyone's support. Because of this hour live, there's no videos this week on the longs normally post today and Wednesday. I've been off a day on that, Monday and Thursday lately, only because of the TED videos. Those videos were of such length that they required significant editing, and it took more time. And then I do a short on Tuesday, Friday. So let me know how you feel about switching from that format to once a week live. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the weekend. Be well, and look for regular videos again next Sunday. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.